Welcome to Right Now Workshop Podcast, where you can write a book and change the world. I'm your host, Kitty Bucholtz, and this is episode 156, To Plan or Not to Plan. Yes, an encouraging words episode coming to you on Sunday, September 8th, 2019. Well, that is exactly what I've been thinking about. To plan or not to plan? What am I going to plan? What am I going to just let it go, flow, go by the seat of my pants? And I have decided that for me, right now, the answer is yes. Some things I'm going to plan, some things I'm not going to plan. And for my plans, I'm going to try to let them be a little bit organic. Like, here's where I'm going to put the garden in this plot. But what grows, I don't know. Maybe we'll just kind of wait and see what grows there. So the reason why I am giving you this insight into my brain right now as your encouraging words is because sometimes I think that we need to be encouraged to just relax and see what grows. What happens if we just relax and create? I know that I have a ton of plans, and the episode that we just did a few days ago, I was talking about planning to some degree. How are we going to finish out this year? We've got 4 months left in the year. Where are we going with it? What are we going to do? What still needs to be done? What is changing from the plans that we had in January to the plans that we have now that we're, 2/3 of the way through the year? And I have some plans that I'm going to walk down this path and see if it goes anywhere. Now, as far as I can tell, the path does look like it's going somewhere. But if I get partway down and it turns out that now I can't even figure out where the path is, or maybe I can tell that it for sure ended or whatever, then maybe I'll turn around and go another direction. And right now, am going to be okay with that, which is somewhat novel for me. I try this every now and then, and I have to say is that sometimes it really works well for me. So this is your encouragement that in case you just need somebody to give you permission to say, feel free to not plan this day, this week. I don't know, maybe the rest of the year. Maybe you actually really do need someone to tell you, don't worry about planning the rest of the year. Just do and see what happens. See what you get done when you just do. I do notice that sometimes when I spend less time thinking about my to-do list and just move from item to item to item to item, it seems like I get a lot more done rather than going over it. Well, if I do this first and then I put these 3 errands together and then I do that, sometimes that works really well for me. And sometimes I just have to do the next thing that comes to my hand and I get a lot more done. So I want to encourage you to think about what works best for you and whether or not sometimes it's this and sometimes it's that. And then trying to figure out, well, where am I at today or this week or the rest of this year? Do I think that I probably am going to be happier, maybe get more done, get better things done if I don't have a plan, if I do have a plan? So here's my thought. You know that I get a lot of my inspiration from the Bible. And honestly, I see arguments for both sides there. So for instance, Noah had a very specific plan when he was given the blueprints, so to speak, for the ark. And thank goodness, because that ark needed to be a very well put together boat if it was going to float on water and keep hundreds of animals and a half a dozen people alive. So thank goodness there were very detailed plans. Thank goodness he followed the very detailed plans. Sometimes that is a good thing. Solomon had detailed plans when he built his magnificent temple. Also, very good idea. You don't want to have workers coming from the west and workers coming from the east meeting in the middle and realizing the wall is actually 3 feet apart. What are we going to do? We'll just make it into an alcove. And you don't want to end up with things like, oh, sorry, Solomon, we got almost all of the floor covered in gold tile, but not this section because we didn't really plan it out well enough and we didn't have enough materials. So, lots of good things to be said for planning, right? Proverbs has a lot of, little one-liners about careful planning and, taking care of business, not being lazy, stuff like that. I find a lot of good advice there. But on the other hand, there are also stories of going forward without knowing what's going to happen next. Like, go this direction. Okay. Why? For how long? What are we supposed to notice when we get there? How will we know when we get there? Are we supposed to be doing something along the way? So Abraham was told, go. And so he went, but he didn't really know any of the details, but he went and things turned out pretty well. I mean, there was a lot of adventure on his journey, some things that were pretty rough, some things that turned out well. But the fact is that he just believed that this was the right way to go, and he went. And sometimes we just need to believe that, yes, this is the right thing for me, and I'm just going to do it, even though I don't know exactly where it will take me or how it will turn out. Sometimes you have a plan, and it still is not really quite as helpful as you thought it was going to be. So, for instance, when God said to Abraham, you're going to have a child, and then they waited and they didn't get pregnant, and they waited and they didn't get pregnant, and they waited and they didn't get pregnant. And then things happened and he ended up with 2 sons. That's a whole story to it. But so sometimes your plan takes longer than you think it will. And you start doubting whether or not you actually had a plan. Like, did you get that plan down right? Was there something that you did wrong somewhere? Paul got on a ship and said, I'm going here. And then what happens? He gets in a big shipwreck and ends up on an island, and he winters on the island. I kind of think, if my memory serves, he wintered in the island of Crete, but Crete might not have been the place of the shipwreck. Anyway, he traveled so much, I can't keep track of it myself, but I'm sure some biblical scholar is like, yes or no, Kitty, you have that right or wrong. But nonetheless, he was going from point A to point B. There was a storm, ship broke up, ended up on a desert island. Thank goodness he didn't die. And then there he was. So even when he had a plan, it didn't work out quite the way it was supposed to. Certainly not what he expected anyway. So then you just have to ask yourself, do I believe that my life is going to turn out the way it's supposed to? Do I believe that if I put all of my heart and energy and soul into it, then it will be something that I will be happy with? And this is the tricky one, the one that I am still trying to learn and haven't learned yet. How much of my heart and soul into it is enough, and how much is too much or not enough? Because I was feeling like I wasn't putting enough into it because I wasn't where I wanted to be yet, and I ended up burning myself out. And if you don't mind my saying, fairly badly. I figure if you can't work for 6 months or a year, you have done quite a fine job of burning yourself out badly. That is not something that I ever want to go through again, and I really don't want you to go through it. So this is the hard part, and I don't know what the answer is. I most certainly don't know what the answer is for you. I haven't figured out what the answer is for me yet, but how much is I'm putting my heart and soul into it, but I haven't gone overboard. Right this second, what I'm looking at is I'm trying to, sometimes hourly, if I'm way too stressed for good health, but mostly kind of a little bit daily and quite a bit more weekly, just asking myself, how do you feel? Do you feel healthy? Are you taking care of yourself? Did you get enough sleep? Did you get enough healthy food? You know, like not going to restaurants and fast food joints all the time, or eating ice cream for every single meal, or drinking wine for every single meal. Sometimes that's fine. For me, too much of a good thing is just too much. So I just have to ask myself, kind of check in a little bit. And right now I've been doing it a couple of times a week. And there are times when I'm like, okay, I have all my gym clothes laid out. I know what I'm doing tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. And then around the time that I'm getting ready for bed, I'm like, you know what? I'm exhausted. I can't even figure out where I'm going to get the energy for all the things that have to be done tomorrow. And sometimes I just turn off the alarm and I don't go for a run. And, you know, it seems to be almost against common sense, but the sleep is actually going to be better for me in the long run than the run. And again, that is not necessarily, you know, a rule that every single person can say, well, this is the rule, this is the way to do it. So It's a lot of things here to think about. But what I really want to do is encourage you that whether the best thing in this moment or for this item, for this piece of your life, is having a plan or not having a plan, either one of those might be the right answer. Either one of those might be yes. That is exactly what you needed. So I hope that's some encouragement for you. I hope it gives you something to think about so that you can kind of figure out where you should be. Figure it out by yourself within your own context. I have to figure it out by myself within my own context. And then, hopefully we'll find ourselves like in a position of peace and joy and prosperity on multiple levels. Wouldn't that be nice? That would feel good, right? All right. Have a fabulous day and week. And I will see you again with another Encouraging Words episode next week. No, sorry. Next month. Once a month. I'm doing it once a month. So next month, I will see you again with another Encouraging Words episode in October.